thank you for making a difference.
Wonderful people who are genuinely making a difference.
I think she is the greatest.
You're 1 in a million, Billy.
Mary is a true hero.
You've made a difference.
Hello, good morning.
Gerry, I have a problem.
Good. See, Daniel dumped his girlfriend. That's a surprise, isn't it? It's good to take a cow for a walk every now and again. It shows it that you love it. Any spare wound we have, we'll send them down to your hut. It's nice to see you in the flesh rather than to hear your voice alone, which is bad enough.
That's glad to see you too.
It's nice. Thank you for inviting me into your lovely home.
You're welcome anytime.
I've never been here before. You've never invited me in here before.
No, Sean Coyle always comes.
If you've something to complain about, don't miss him.
People have to know what kind of a woman you are. Members of the public were asked to come along at some kind of BBC-sponsored do with thin wine and impossible sandwiches. And you happened to be there. And you happened to be looking for a lift home to Derry / Londonderry. And we said, kindly, that'll be grand. You can come with us. So you had a brandy or two, hadn't you?
Well...
A little snippet.
Just a wee...
A little snifter you had. So by the time you got to Derry / Londonderry, it was very foggy. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning. We said, now, where do you live, Rosie? And he says, I don't know. I'm sorry for relating that story because it doesn't reflect well on you, which is one of the reasons why I always tell
No,
it.
I stopped to drink since, but...
Have you? That must have left an awful hole in your life.
Right.
What are you... No, seriously, what are you doing now? Is the man from next door still calling around the back door?
No, the man from next door is an old man. But what I do, I have 2 here. 2 women come out to see if I want anything from the shop or anything.
Well, are they employed by anybody?
No, they're not. They just have nothing to do in the morning. They come down and keep me back.
Keep you back? In other words, annoy you? They come down and annoy you?
No, they don't now. They're very good. They make a difference now to me in the morning.
And I'd like to tell you about Anna Guthrie, who's been nominated by her neighbour Annie Jane Campbell of Londonderry. Anna, she says, is already a very busy lady. She has a husband and family to look after, and she holds down a full-time job. Despite all of this, Anna still has time for me. Who am I? I'm an 83-year-old lady living on my own. Yet for Anna, I seem to be important. I think she is the greatest. So do I, Annie. Ladies and gentlemen, making a difference for so many people, Annie Guthrie.
Yeah, I didn't meet you when I was working down here.
You were a lot younger than me then.
A hell of a lot younger.
Aye.
Of course, you probably wouldn't have noticed me anyway, because I was fairly insignificant, not as handsome as I am now.
You didn't have a big flashy car then, no?
No, I still don't have a big flashy car.
I hate your big red car.
I give most of my money away to the poor.
Do you?
Mm-hmm. I'm not a wealthy man, but I wasn't then. You probably wouldn't have noticed me because I had no money at all then.
You'd give it to the poor?
Always.
Well, on your way out, leave it on my table.
All right.
No.
Speaking about money, there are people who say that the more money you have, the less genuine you are about people, the less genuine you feel about people. But I don't know about that because it works the other way too, because maybe the less money you have, the more mean-spirited you become. I never used to think about either of those things until I took a job as a social work assistant in Strabane. I did that for, more than a year and a half, and I have to say it was one of the happiest times of my life. I used to work with travelling people.
Right.
I did, actually.
Uh-huh.
I did a long time ago, and I liked them a lot. They're free spirits, A lot of people don't understand them. I used to have to go and visit them when I used to be a social worker.
All right.
And I enjoyed them tremendously. I enjoyed them. They don't like men with briefcases. I learned to leave the briefcase behind. Because whenever they see a man with a briefcase, they automatically think you're from the dough. So, as any right-thinking person would. I mean, I've seen building sites being raised and cleared by a man walking across the front with a briefcase. But I used to walk in there and used to leave my briefcase behind. Because the first time I went with the briefcase, somebody threw a stone at me. And I realised there was no future in it. But they're very nice people. And much misunderstood, may I say to you. Many of my clients, as we were supposed to call them, didn't have much. But they got by because of their sense of humour and the way they looked after each other. I've lost count of the number of times I spoke to home helps and discovered they were working twice the number of hours they're being paid for to look after ill and elderly people who were strangers to them, people who had nobody else to look after them. They didn't have to do it. I used to ask them why they worked these hours, because they were working for nothing after all, and they always said the same thing. They said, She couldn't look at them. I don't think people should work until they're 30, you know. Far too many people start working early and they feel as if it's a good thing to do. You don't realise you can spend valuable hours doing nothing, staring at the wall. And you can get in touch with yourself. Many people are not in touch with themselves. That's why whenever they retire when they're 65 or 60, they immediately drop dead. Because their whole reason for living disappears, because they don't know how to do nothing. Fortunately, we in Northern Ireland have been trained from a very early age because of our early exposure to the dole and the brew. We know how to pass the time. We know how to sit and read the paper for 4.5 hours. We know how to make your breakfast last an hour and a half. So we will all be safe. That's why we all live until about 148. But never mind that. I used to call in to see an old lady who'd come upon hard times. And she had torn the top of a chocolate box off and put it in a gilt frame and put it up on her wall. It's a picture of 2 Highland Terriers. Every time I used to visit her, I used to comment upon this and tell her, you should insure that. It's worth a lot of money. And she would always regard it as her most prized possession. Anyway, I was leaving the job, and the last time I called in to see her, she gave me a present, a parcel wrapped in brown paper. I got out into my wee white van, opened the parcel up, and there were the 2 Highland Terriers in a gilt frame and a £5 note on top of it. It was as if she'd given me £1,000,000. As far as I was concerned, she had.
Everybody needs a little help sometime. No one stands alone. Makes no difference if you're just a child like me or a king upon the throne. Where there are no exceptions, we all stand in line. Everybody needs a friend. Let me tell you of mine.
My friend Billy does voluntary work with the Malcolm Sargent Fund for kids with cancer. I'm one of those kids. From the moment I met Billy, he treated me as a normal teenager. When I'm out with him, I forget about my illness. He really cares, and though he has a heart condition, he always wears a smile. His motto is, if the kids are happy, I'm happy. You're 1 in a million, Billy. Billy McCrory, ladies and gentlemen.
It takes somebody special to genuinely care about somebody. And a willingness to regularly go out of your way to help people when you don't have to do it is a noble thing. You don't need a lot of money to be happy. If you have decent people around you, you're halfway there. My time as a social work assistant in Strabane wasn't all sunshine. There were kind of quirky times as well, as anybody who does a similar job will tell you. Doctors, health visitors, nurses, they'll all tell you the same thing. But there were quirky times with a reek of character in a way. Like the fella who blew his front door off with a shotgun because he'd forgotten his key. And then there was an old farmer, a proud old farmer, who lived on the side of a remote hill and wouldn't admit that he needed help. And his nearest neighbour, a woman who lived about 2 or 3 miles away, she used to break into his house every single day and make him a meal. Now, she didn't have to do that. You see, she couldn't look on him.
How rough do you live?
I've got a wee tin hut.
Well, you know, there are men with a tin hut who are happier than men with mansions.
I've still got the old battery wireless, you know.
Yes.
Ever-ready Skylord.
What form of heating do you use?
Oh, I just use a wee stove.
Paraffin, is it?
No.
But
I flog a lot of logs.
you flog a lot of logs?
Aye, when everybody else is sleeping, I do a wee bit of sawing.
Yeah. Well, you seem to have the whole thing sussed out, don't you, really? You seem to have contentment there. Well, are you a man who lives on his own there? Are you on your own?
Indeed, and that's another thing I would like you on. Well, you could forget about putting my name in the hat if you put me down for one of them women's going to be advertised in the wheel.
We have to be very careful.
Put my name down for a blonde.
Ivor, hold on. We have to be very careful who we give women to. Because
Well,
we need a reference from 2 employers.
I would take care of her.
I know that's what I'm afraid of.
If I ever get older and greyer and not able to look after myself, not at myself, so to speak, I think I'll live around here. You see, they won't be able to look at me.
I'll tell you, Gerry, you wouldn't get a nicer place.
All the people calling in to see me, and especially a lot of women. Well, listen, book me a pensioner's bungalow in Sand Mills. Myself and Walter will be down there very shortly.
Will you?
Yeah.
Oh, well, and I'll see you in Walter.
Walter and I.
Walter.
We're inseparable. Okay, love, thank
All
you,
right.
thank you.
Thanks,
And don't you
Fred.
worry, I'll look after you.
He's my forever friend. My leave me never friend. From darkest night to rainbow's edge, he's my forever friend.
Jesus.